I never imagined the sound of snow could feel so loud. It whispered against the windows of our tiny duplex, like winter was telling me a secret I didn't want to hear. The heater grumbled in the corner, overwhelmed and outmatched by the cold that crept in through every seam of this place. It was 5 days before Christmas. My daughter Lily was 9, and my son Ethan was 7. They were on the living room floor, making paper ornaments from old homework pages and wrapping scraps. The tree beside them looked like it had survived a war, leaning slightly, half-lit, but loved. I'd just come home from a 15-hour haul through a whiteout. My hands were still stiff from fixing a frozen brake line in the driveway. My shoulders ached. My coat smelled like diesel and pine needles. I didn't even take my boots off, just collapsed at the kitchen table with a flat can of beer and a phone full of overdue notices. That's when it rang. Dad's name blinked across the screen. I thought maybe they needed more money. Again. I'd sent over $22,000 this year alone for mortgage payments, truck repairs, vacation bills, and whatever mess Daniel's flower business had turned into. I was their safety net, their fallback plan, their fool. I answered on speaker. "Rachel," Dad said, sharp and brief, like a banker refusing a loan. "Christmas dinner's not going to work for you and the kids this year." I blinked. "What?" "It's just, Daniel's hosting. He wants a calmer setting, and his twins are sensitive." There was a pause, long enough for my breath to catch. "And my kids aren't?" I asked. "You know how they can be," he replied. "Rowdy, loud, a little disruptive." I didn't shout, not yet. I just looked at Ethan, quietly coloring a bent snowflake, and Lily, humming to herself as she taped a crooked star onto the tree. And something in me cracked. They weren't rowdy. They were kids. And my parents, they'd just thrown them away like wrapping paper. I didn't yell. Not yet. Instead, I sat back in my chair and started doing the kind of math that doesn't need a calculator. Just memory and bitterness. $22,000. That's what I'd given them this year. $7,000 for their beach trip last spring, when Daniel needed a reset after tanking yet another business. $5,000 for groceries and bills, because Dad's pension wasn't stretching far enough. Another $2,800 for his truck, the one that never made it past the driveway. $6,000 toward the mortgage. And of course the $1,000 bandage I slapped on Daniel's failing flower shop, back when it looked like it still had a pulse. I paid for their peace, so my kids could be treated like noise. I stared at my phone, heart thudding. It was still warm from the call, but I felt ice in my chest. Ethan had stopped coloring. Lily clutched her crumpled star like it was the last good thing in the world. And still, I kept my voice calm. Maybe out of habit. Maybe because I didn't want to scare them. "I've covered every damn thing," I whispered, more to myself than to them. "I fed your fridge. I paid for your laughter. I paid for Daniel's second and third and fourth chances." I stood slowly, my boots scuffed against the floor, gritty with dried salt and road dust. I picked up my laptop from the counter, flipped it open, and logged into the shared account, the one tied to their house. The one Dad conveniently forgot how to access when bills were due. There it was, auto pay set for January honest. Mortgage, $1,400. I canceled it. Simple, cold, quiet. Then the truck loan, $400 a month. Canceled. No rage. No announcement. I didn't owe them noise. In the silence that followed, I looked at my kids. Lily was watching me, her head tilted, her eyes wide. Ethan leaned into her, unsure, maybe a little scared. I walked over and sat with them, the paper star now soft at the edges in Lily's hands, Ethan's snowflake half torn. I pulled them close, kissed their heads. "We'll have our own Christmas," the first said gently. "Ours will be warmer anyway." And I meant it, even if the snowstorm outside had other plans. It didn't happen all at once. There was no explosion, no grand confrontation, no Hollywood moment. Just stillness, and the sound of things slowly stopping. Christmas Eve arrived like a whisper through thick snow, silent, heavy, and indifferent to anyone's holiday plans. Our little duplex stood defiant against the wind, held together with dollar store insulation and layers of patchwork resilience. Inside, Ethan and Lily were laughing. They had no idea what I'd done. No idea I'd canceled the very lifelines that kept my father's house humming. No idea I'd pulled the thread on their grandfather's carefully woven illusion. But I knew. We were baking cookies. The dough came from a dented can I'd grabbed on clearance, stretched thin with a little flour and hope. The oven warmed the kitchen more than the heater ever could. Our tree still leaned to the left, half lit, half forgotten, but Lily had added a crown of red ribbon from an old gift bag, and Ethan stuck cotton balls under it, calling it snow armor. It was beautiful, ugly, and imperfect and alive. At 9:04 a.m., my phone buzzed. Dad, voicemail. Rachel, the furnace is acting up. Can you check it? I ignored it. Sliced cookie dough. Pretended I didn't hear. At 10:18 a.m., another call. Mom, text. It's 55 in here. What's going on? Still, I said nothing. We added sprinkles. Ethan dumped half the container onto a snowman's head. Lily declared it a glitter hat of justice. 11:30 a.m. Dad again. It's 51 now. This isn't funny. No, it wasn't. And yet, as I wiped melted sugar from Ethan's cheeks, I felt something I hadn't tasted in years. Control. Not power, not the cruel, stomping kind, but the kind of control that comes from choosing stillness instead of chasing approval. By noon, their messages stacked like the snowdrifts outside. Rachel, please answer. Thermostat's busted? Your brother's kids are shivering. Fix this. I imagined Daniel, smug little Daniel, bundled in a sweater I'd probably paid for, realizing the heat wouldn't return like magic this time. His twins, the sensitive ones, now crying in the cold that had never touched them before. A strange calm settled over me. It felt like watching the tide finally reach someone who thought they lived above the ocean. I made sliders out of ham scraps and half a roll of cheese. The kids ate them like they were a feast, dipping the bread into leftover gravy with giggles that filled every dusty corner of the room. At 3:12 p.m., a string of texts came rapid fire. Mom, it's 45. The twins are coughing. Dad, Rachel, call the gas company or something. This is serious. Daniel, you vindictive witch. My kids are sick. I didn't reply, didn't even smile. I just sat cross-legged on the carpet, playing Go Fish with Lily and Ethan. Their laughter, unfiltered and messy, filled the space between the heater's old wheeze and the outside wind's howl. By sunset, the duplex was dim except for the glow of the tree and a scratched DVD of Elf. The kids watched with wide eyes as Buddy spun through New York, while I sat in the kitchen frying leftover ham for tomorrow's sandwiches. That night, the phone didn't stop. Voicemails from Dad, whose voice now cracked with panic. Texts from Mom, jumping between guilt and rage. Daniel's words became sharper, crueler, louder. You ruined Christmas. My kids are freezing because of you. This is abuse. No, this was consequence. The kind they never thought would reach them. And when midnight came, the world outside was buried in white. Their house, the one I'd paid to keep warm, sat like a frozen memory across town. I imagined Daniel trying to light candles with shaking hands, Mom wrapping the twins in old blankets, Dad blaming the thermostat, the weather, me, anyone but himself. I tucked the kids in, Lily with her glitter hat of justice, Ethan curled up beside her, snoring softly. Then I turned off the light, and for the first Christmas in a long time, I slept. 3 days passed. The snow hadn't let up. The world outside was white static, blurred edges, lost outlines, like the storm itself had forgotten what it was covering. But inside our duplex, things were clear. The kids were building a Lego fort by the heater. I'd just finished patching a leak in the kitchen sink. My reward was half a cup of reheated coffee and 10 minutes of silence. That was when the doorbell rang. I wiped my hands and checked the peephole. Daniel. No coat. No smugness. Just panic, chattering teeth, and eyes that didn't know where to look. His arms hugged his chest like they were the only thing keeping him together. I opened the door just a crack. The warmth spilled out onto the porch and hit him like a drug. "Rachel," he gasped. "Please. I need to talk to you." I didn't say anything. I didn't move. He looked smaller. Not younger, smaller. Like someone who'd lost the part of himself that believed he was untouchable. His voice cracked. "I have to tell you the truth." That got my attention. I stepped aside just enough to lean on the doorframe, arms crossed, wrench still in my hand. "Talk." He hesitated, like he wasn't sure if the cold or the confession would hurt more. Then he stepped forward, just enough for the snow on his sweater to start melting. "It wasn't the flower shop," he said. I blinked. "What?" "The 20 grand, he continued. "The flower shop didn't burn through it. That whole story, the bounced checks, the debt, the collapse, it wasn't me." He swallowed hard. "It was Mom and Dad." My stomach dropped like the floor had shifted. He looked at me, shivering. They were forging checks, pulling money from shady loans, propping up their lifestyle with fake expenses. They told me it was temporary, that no one would find out. They just needed to borrow your help. He let out a shaking breath. Then it got out of control. I stared at him. "And you let them pin it on you." "I was scared," he admitted. "They said if I took the blame, they'd leave me the house. They said you didn't need it, that you weren't duff, that you'd understand." His voice cracked. "I didn't think they'd turn on you too." My mouth was dry, but they did. He nodded, eyes glistening. "They didn't just freeze us out," I said slowly. "They used me. For years." "I know," he whispered. "And I'm sorry." It landed with a dull thud, like an apology tossed into deep snow. No echo, no warmth, just silence. "You let me bleed out my kids' Christmas," the first said, softer than I expected. "You watched me hand over every paycheck, every scraped dollar, to cover up their mess. You let my kids be exiled so your lie wouldn't get cold." Daniel looked down. "I didn't know they'd go this far." "They always do," I said. There was a pause. Only the wind filled it. "I told them I'd come," he added. "That I'd beg you to fix it." That made me laugh. Short, sharp, empty. "So this is the part where the prodigal sibling passes the torch of guilt," I said. "I'm supposed to go turn the heat back on now, right? Restart the loans? Rescue them again?" He didn't answer. I stepped forward, just enough to let the cold slap my skin. "Tell Dad the mortgage is done," I said. "Tell Mom the truck's gone. Tell the twins' sensitive lungs that their warm air got canceled by pride." He opened his mouth. I slammed the door. The click of the lock sounded final. Inside, Lily peeked over the top of the Lego fort. "Who was it?" "No one important," I said, forcing a smile. Later that night, as the wind howled outside, I stared at the ceiling and wondered how long a lie like that had to fester before it turned into a family tradition. The next morning, Tina, my cousin, called, voice buzzing with glee. "Rachel, oh my God, it's a circus." She didn't wait for permission. Daniel just posted everything online. The fake expenses, the forged checks, the loan sharks they borrowed from. It's all unraveling. People are furious. Uncle Ray pulled his money from their emergency fund. Aunt Joyce is threatening a lawsuit. Mom says the bank's freezing their accounts. Your dad's truck got towed. Your mom's begging neighbors for space heaters. I said nothing, just stirred soup on the stove, slowly. "They're done," Tina said. "It's poetic." "No," I corrected gently. "It's overdue." Ethan and Lily ran into the kitchen, holding up snow boots and smiling with wind-chapped cheeks. "Can we go outside?" Lily asked. "We want to build a tunnel," I nodded. "Bundle up." As they rushed off, I looked out the window. Their tiny footprints dotted the snow like constellations. I finally had time to name, and for once, I wasn't erasing myself to keep someone else warm. By the time January wrapped itself around the town like a frozen noose, their house was more rumor than refuge. The foreclosure notice went up on the door, the truck was long gone, and the furnace hadn't made a sound in weeks. I took Lily and Ethan to the park that morning, bundled in every layer they owned, sleds in tow. The snow was soft enough to carve paths into, still untouched in the early light. They shrieked with joy as they flew down the hill, cheeks flushed, noses red, laughing like laughter was heat. I sat on a bench with coffee in hand, watching them be children, watching myself, almost, from a distance. Not the mother who gave everything away, but the one who'd finally drawn the line. That's when the phone buzzed again. "Mom, Rachel, we're losing everything. Please, talk to us." "Dad, you've ruined us." "He's not letting it go." "Daniel, the twins are sick." I told the truth. I did my part. "Please help." I didn't respond. Some things aren't broken. They were never mine to fix. That night we grilled hot dogs on a small fire pit in the backyard. The kids fought over who got more cheese on their buns, and I let them. Let them be messy. Let them take up space. We roasted marshmallows until the stars came out, and I told stories about summer fireworks and music festivals they hadn't seen yet. The doorbell rang just as we were cleaning up. I knew it before I even opened it. Dad, hair unkempt, beard scruffy, eyes hollow, in his hands a pawn ticket and a Tupperware container of what might have been soup or just guilt, reheated. I opened the door halfway. He didn't ask to come in. "Rachel," he started, voice low, brittle. "We screwed up." I waited. His hands trembled. The ticket crinkled. It was never about you being strong. It was about us being scared. We couldn't face what we'd done, so we leaned on you. We leaned hard, too hard. And when you finally let go, everything collapsed. I said nothing. He looked around, not at me, but past me, into the warm light, at the drawings on the fridge, at Lily's glitter-covered boots near the door, at the life still standing, Daniel's hiding, Mom's begging cousins for space heaters. The twins are still coughing. They're living in a borrowed trailer. We don't know what to do anymore. I tilted my head. "You kicked me and my kids out of Christmas," the first said. "You told me my children were too loud, too rough, that Daniel deserved more peace than they did." He flinched. "You took 22 grand from me," I continued, "and then you took our place at the table. You didn't just ask me to sacrifice, you demanded it. And when I said no, you acted like I burned the house down." I stepped back. Just a little. Let the cold hit him again. "You didn't burn it down," he said, almost whispering. "You just stopped holding it up." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. He held out the pawn ticket like it meant something, like it would unlock forgiveness. "I sold my tools," he murmured. "The good ones. I thought maybe I could give you something. A start. I don't have much." I looked at the slip of paper. It wasn't penance. It wasn't healing. It was too late. "I don't need your tools," I said quietly. "I needed a father." And then I closed the door, click. Not a slam. Just enough to end the conversation. Just enough to choose myself. Inside, Ethan was trying to microwave marshmallows. Lily was dancing to a song I'd never heard of, singing off key and spinning in socks. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, smiling softly. "It really is." The days rolled on. Their messages became fewer, then none at all. Rumors swirled, foreclosure, repossession, the bank reclaiming what my name had once protected, neighbors whispering about the girl who turned off the heat and the brother who cracked. I let them talk, because I didn't have a story to tell anymore. Not to them. I'd already lived it, paid for it. I'd walked through fire for people who told me to be grateful for the burn, and now I was finally cool to the touch. One evening, Lily brought me a crayon drawing of our little duplex, smoke puffing from the chimney, a crooked tree in the window, 3 stick figures inside, one tall, two small. She pointed to the figure in the middle. "That's you," she said proudly. "You're the warmest." I hugged her tighter than she understood. Not because she was wrong, but because she was exactly right. Story 2. I'm Maya, 27F, and I've been a professional nanny for most of my adult life. I love my job when I'm being paid for it. But apparently, that fact has turned me into the default childcare provider for my extended family, whether I agreed to it or not. For years, every holiday, barbecue, reunion, whatever the occasion, I was quietly expected to do my thing and entertain a small army of cousins, nieces, and nephews, while the adults kicked back with wine and charcuterie. Thanksgiving? Oh, Maya's great with kids. Christmas? Maya can just take them downstairs. Random Sunday brunch? She won't mind. Spoiler alert, I did mind. I kept the peace for a long time, biting my tongue. But the breaking point came last month at my mom's birthday dinner, a fancy evening she'd been looking forward to for weeks. What should have been a normal celebration turned into the kind of drama that makes you question your entire relationship with your family. So let me paint the cast of characters. My mom, Sylvia, 59F, the birthday girl and the emotional glue of the family. My dad, David, 61M, forever neutral and allergic to drama. My older sister, Rachel, 36F, queen of passive aggression, married to Evan, 38M. Their 3 kids, Mira, 8F, Benji, 5M, and Zeke, 2M. My younger brother, Caleb, 24M, in grad school and blissfully uninvolved. My Aunt Leanne, 56F, who treats me like her personal au pair, with 2 of her own, Tyler, 10M, and Chloe, 6F. Anyway, the plan was a nice family dinner at a restaurant downtown. I was genuinely excited. Good food, no cooking, no cleanup, and ideally, no childcare. Or so I thought. The night before the dinner, I got a call from Rachel. It was one of those faux casual tones she uses when she's about to drop something manipulative. "Hey, so Evan and I were thinking, it might be better if you stayed back with the kids. You know how chaotic restaurants can get with them, and you'd just be chasing them around anyway." I paused. Wait, what? Why would I not come to Mom's birthday dinner? Well, we figured you'd basically be watching them at the table anyway, so it just seemed easier. Excuse me? I was stunned. She wasn't asking. She was assigning. I pushed back immediately and told her flat out, "I'm going to dinner. If you don't want your kids there, hire a sitter." She didn't like that. And then Leanne chimed in, texting me about how the kids would be more comfortable with someone they know and how I was making this harder than it needed to be. Guilt trips galore. But I didn't budge. I reminded them both that just because I work with kids doesn't mean I'm on call 24/7 for family functions. And this was a boundary. What happened next was almost too ridiculous to believe. The night of the dinner, I showed up at my parents' house, dressed up and ready to go. And there they were, Rachel and Leanne, standing in the entryway with 5 kids, jackets half-zipped, iPads in hand, diaper bags dropped by the door. "Thanks again, Maya. We'll be back in a few hours." I laughed. They looked confused. I looked them dead in the eye and said, "I'm not staying." Then I grabbed my purse, walked past them, got in my car, and drove off. Chaos. Within minutes, my phone started blowing up calls, texts, even a voice message from my mom begging me to just help out this once, because the whole evening was already off to a rocky start. But they'd made a choice to gamble that I'd fold, and when I didn't, they had no backup plan. Apparently, they spent the next hour frantically trying to find a last-minute sitter. The only one available charged $40 an hour, good for her. Honestly, they had to split the bill, and the whole reservation ended up getting canceled. Mom was upset. Rachel was furious. Leanne, apoplectic. The next day, Rachel called me raging. "You humiliated us. We look like idiots." I responded, "That's not my problem. You assumed I'd say yes. You didn't even ask." Then came the kicker. She Venmo requested me $200. No, really. She and Leanne decided that because I caused them to hire a sitter, I should help cover the cost. I thought it was a joke. When I realized they were serious, I replied with a simple no, and that's when everything truly unraveled. So yeah, after I shut down that $200 Venmo request, I figured the dust would settle. Maybe they'd stay mad for a few days, complain in a family group chat, then move on like they always do. I underestimated just how petty some people can be when they're not getting their way. At first, it was the usual passive-aggressive nonsense texts from Rachel like, "Glad you could enjoy your night while the rest of us dealt with the mess." Or Leanne sending me meme-level guilt. Family means stepping up even when it's not convenient. Cute. I ignored it. I was done explaining myself. But then, 2 days later, Rachel messaged me again not to talk, not to apologize. She sent me another Venmo request. Same amount, $200. This time with a note that said, "Your share of the sitter, don't make this harder than it needs to be." At that point, it wasn't even about money. It was the entitlement for me. So I messaged her back. "I didn't ask you to hire a sitter. I told you no. That's not on me." She came back with a rant about being part of a family and how I should be willing to help when it really matters. That I was selfish. That I had let everyone down. I told her point blank. Loving kids doesn't mean I owe you free childcare. You planned a night out and didn't plan childcare. That's on you. Thought that would be the end of it. Spoiler, it wasn't. The next day my mom called. Now, my mom's not a villain here, she's just someone who desperately wants everyone to get along. But this time, her loyalty was clearly leaning in the wrong direction. She said she'd been hearing from Rachel and Leanne about how I put them in an impossible situation, how this all started because I made it about me, and how I should have just helped out for her birthday. Then she said it. Maybe you could just pay part of the sitter's fee, just to smooth things over? That's when I realized they were really trying to rewrite the whole event. Suddenly, I was the reason their night fell apart. I was the one who created tension. I was the one who needed to fix it. I told her calmly but directly, "Mom, I didn't ruin anything. Rachel and Leanne did. They tried to force me into babysitting without asking. They banked on guilt, and it didn't work. That's their failure, not mine." She sighed, said I was being unyielding, that sometimes we do things for family, even when it's inconvenient. And I said, right, but it's always me. I'm the only one expected to give up my time. No one else is sacrificing anything. Click. After that, full-blown family drama mode. Rachel and Leanne went on a mission. They twisted the narrative so hard it practically snapped in half. They told other relatives that I refused to help unless I was paid, that I said I wouldn't babysit family without compensation. Suddenly, cousins were messaging me, asking if it was true that I was charging people now. Excuse me? One cousin, Natalie, even asked, "Wait, are you doing invoices for birthdays now?" That one almost made me laugh. Almost. So I called Rachel. I didn't yell. I didn't even raise my voice. I just asked, "Are you seriously telling people I refused to help unless I was paid?" She didn't even deny it. "Well, you made it sound like your time was worth money. That's basically the same thing." No, it's not. Saying you can't force me to work for free is not the same as I won't help unless I get paid. And she knew that. She wanted to make me look like the villain, cold, greedy, transactional, just so she wouldn't have to admit she got caught trying to manipulate me. That's when I stopped responding altogether. Then came the next low. My mom hosted a small family dinner a week later. Nothing big, just a gathering for close family. I wasn't invited. Let me say that again. I was explicitly not invited. Caleb, my younger brother, a total legend, told me what really went down. Apparently, Rachel and Leanne told Mom that Maya's negativity would ruin the mood, and Mom, either worn down or just too tired to fight, went along with it. Caleb face timed me from the dinner. Everyone was there. Rachel, Leanne, the kids. Even my cousin Luke, who lives 2 hours away and never shows up for anything, but not me. That night, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine and realized something painful but true. I was done. Not just done babysitting, not just done explaining. I was done trying to prove my worth in a family that only valued me when I was useful. Rachel and Leanne thought they were punishing me. What they really did was set me free. After the birthday dinner fallout and getting iced out of the next family gathering, I figured the worst was over. Let them talk, let them stew. I wasn't going to chase anyone down, and I definitely wasn't going to apologize for drawing a boundary. But what I didn't expect, what I never saw coming, was that they wouldn't just stop at freezing me out socially. They came for my job. Now, in case I haven't mentioned it before, I'm not just a casual sitter. I'm a professional nanny with certifications, a strong client base, glowing reviews, and years of reputation built online. My livelihood depends on those platforms. Parents looking for trustworthy care read every single review before reaching out. So when I logged into one of the childcare apps I use and saw a 1-star review sitting at the top of my profile, I froze. It claimed I was irresponsible, that I'd left children unattended, that I disappeared mid-shift. It felt like getting punched. Then I found another, and another. Within days, there were 4 fake reviews, each more dramatic than the last. Different usernames, but all written with the same rhythm, same weird phrasing, like someone trying really hard to sound like a concerned parent. Except, I recognized the tone. Rachel and Leanne. No one else hated me enough to do this. And honestly, no one else was this sloppy with language. I read their angry texts. I know their voice. At first, I panicked. This wasn't just personal. This was my income, my work. These fake reviews dropped my visibility on the app, and inquiries slowed way down. Parents were seeing the red flags before they saw my profile. It was sabotage, plain and simple. I contacted the platform support team and started the process to dispute the reviews. But it wasn't easy. They were technically real accounts, so I had to submit documentation proving I hadn't worked for those clients. It was a whole mess, and it would take time to get fixed. Then it got worse. One of my regular clients, Claire, messaged me asking if I was okay. She'd received an anonymous email warning her not to hire me anymore. The message said I was unprofessional, that I walk off the job when I get overwhelmed, and that she should consider other options. Thankfully, Claire knew me well enough to call BS, but she forwarded the email to me, and sure enough, same phrasing, same fake concerned tone, same grammar quirks Rachel always used in her texts. That was my last straw. I'd kept my peace for years, swallowed my pride, babysat while everyone else drank sangria and clapped each other on the back for being good parents. I let myself be taken for granted because it felt easier than confrontation. But now they were trying to take food off my table, so I gathered every piece of proof I had. Screenshots of the reviews, the forwarded email, messages where Rachel and Leanne admitted they were angry with me for not doing my part. Even texts that hinted they were going to warn people about who I really am. Then I sent one final message in the family group chat. No anger, no drama, just facts. I know what you did. I have proof. If those reviews aren't removed and the emails stop immediately, I will take legal action for defamation and harassment. This is no longer a family issue. It's now about my career, and I won't play nice. The silence was instant. First, Rachel responded with a weak, "What are you even talking about?" Then Leanne chimed in with, "You're being dramatic. No one is sabotaging your job." But then my cousin Max, who had no idea what was going on, asked, "Wait, what's happening?" That's when Rachel cracked. She went full caps lock meltdown. "You want to act like a victim? You abandoned your family, and now you're mad we're telling the truth? You think people should trust their kids with someone who bails over dinner plans?" And there it was, the admission. She'd just confessed loudly, publicly, to trying to ruin my professional name because I refused to babysit for free. Caleb jumped in immediately, called her out, told her she'd lost it. Even my dad finally spoke up, saying he was embarrassed and disgusted by what he was reading. But Rachel? She doubled down, said I brought it all on myself, that she and Leanne were just warning people. And I sent one last message. You have 24 hours to remove every fake review and retract your statements, or I'm filing. And then I left the chat. Not even an hour later, both Rachel and Leanne were blowing up my phone. Suddenly, it was just a misunderstanding, and we didn't mean for it to get this far. By the next morning, every fake review had vanished, like they were never there. But I wasn't letting them off the hook. I sent one final note. If you ever interfere with my job again, I won't send warnings. I'll send legal paperwork. They haven't said a word since. A week later, I got a call from an old friend of Rachel's, someone we both knew years ago. She told me Rachel and Leanne had been bragging to relatives about their little revenge plan, not realizing some of those relatives had brains and boundaries. Word got around. Suddenly, family members who had believed their lies were apologizing to me. A few cut off Rachel and Leanne altogether after learning how far they went to destroy someone over something so petty. And then came the ripple effect. Rachel's husband found out everything. Apparently, he had no idea about the fake reviews and the emails. Let's just say things are not looking great at home for her. Leanne's husband made her delete every social media account she had after hearing what she'd done. Guess it wasn't so funny once the spotlight turned. Me? I didn't file the lawsuit, not yet anyway, but I documented everything, just in case. They sent me an apology email a few days later, full of half excuses, and we didn't think it would hurt you this much lines. I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because here's what I know. I'm no longer the family doormat. I'm not the girl in the corner keeping kids quiet while the wine flows. I'm not the free help. I'm not a name you can drag through the mud because your plan didn't work. I'm done with them. Mom still wishes I'd just let it go, but I told her clearly, if she keeps pushing, she might be next on the block. Caleb and my dad are still solid. So are a few cousins who reached out just to say, hey, we see you now. And me? I'm thriving. My client base actually grew after some referrals came through Claire. I've got more work than I can take on, and for the first time in years, my life is calm, quiet, unbothered. They tried to break me over a babysitting gig. What they really did was show me exactly who they are and free me from pretending I owed them anything. So if you're reading this and you've ever been the one always helping out, always expected to say, yes, let me just say, draw the line, say no, stand your ground, and watch who shows their true face when you do. Story 3, I'm Ava. I'm 26, live in Michigan, and work as a dental assistant. Not glamorous, not wealthy, but I manage. Between rent, car payments, groceries, and the relentless beast known as student loans, adulthood keeps me just above water. Still, I've always made space for family, especially my older sister, Claire. Claire's 31, a single mom, and has a daughter named Zoe, who just turned 6. Since the day Zoe was born, I stepped up. At first, it was because I wanted to. Claire was juggling night shifts as a bartender, barely getting sleep, and drowning in new mom stress. Babysitting here and there didn't feel like a burden. It felt like love. I adored Zoe. I still do. But slowly, the vibe shifted. What began as, hey, can you help out this weekend? Turned into Claire just dropping Zoe off. No texts, no AITA. Sometimes she'd be gone for an entire day. One time she left Zoe with me for the whole weekend, without even warning me. I didn't get a dime for any of it. Not for food. Not for gas when I had to drive Zoe around. Not for anything. And when I tried to bring it up, Claire and our mom would act like I was being dramatic. Family helps family, they'd say. Claire's doing her best, they'd guilt. Zoe needs you. I set boundaries, over and over. I need more notice. I can't be your backup plan. Claire would nod, maybe offer a weak apology, but nothing changed. Ever. Mom was worse. She flat out told me I was being selfish, that Claire deserved to have fun, that I should want to help because I didn't have kids of my own, as if not having children made me available 24/7, as if being child-free meant I owed everyone my time. And then came Friday. Claire had asked if I could watch Zoe from 5 to 9 p.m. because she had a date. I said yes reluctantly because I had plans with my boyfriend, Nate, later that night. I made it crystal clear. You have to be back by 9. I'm leaving at 9:15. She swore she'd be back on time. Promise, she said. Pinky swear. 9 p.m. ROLLED around. No Claire. I called. No answer, texted. Nothing. By 9:30, I was pissed. I'd already missed the dinner reservation. Zoe was tired, asking where her mom was. I didn't know what to say. Out of desperation, I called my mom. She picked up on the second ring and casually told me Claire had texted her that she was having a great time and would be a bit late. No apology. No heads up. Just vibes. I was livid. I texted Claire again. You're an hour late. I have a life too. Still nothing. By 11 I was done. Claire finally sent a text. Oops. Lost track of time. Be there soon, I saw red. I called my mom and gave her one choice. She had 15 minutes to come get Zoe, or I was dropping her off myself. She freaked. Of course, called me selfish, irresponsible, dramatic. You're punishing Claire for living her life, she yelled. I hung up, packed Zoe's overnight bag, and drove to my mom's. When she opened the door, I didn't even let her speak. This is the last time. I'm not a free babysitter. She started arguing. I got in my car and drove off while my phone exploded with calls and messages from both of them. Claire called me heartless, said I traumatized Zoe, said I ruined her night, that I abandoned her daughter. My mom called me a brat, said I was acting like a child, but I didn't feel guilty, not even a little. I'd spent years being used, ignored, steamrolled. And when I finally stood up for myself, I became the villain? Nope, not this time. The next morning I woke up to more texts, some nasty, some fake sweet, all trying to reel me back in. I ignored them. 2 days later, I sent a group message to Claire and my mom. I said, clearly and calmly, that if I was expected to watch Zoe on a regular basis, I needed to be paid, plain and simple. Babysitting is work, and if they treated me like a babysitter, they'd pay me like one. Claire lost it. Are you kidding me? She wrote. I'm a single mom. I can't afford that. I reminded her. I have bills, student loans, rent, a job. Just because I didn't have a child didn't mean I had zero responsibilities. Her response? You don't have kids, so you don't get it. That hit hard, like a slap, because apparently my obligations didn't count. My time didn't matter. My life didn't exist, unless it revolved around Zoe. I replied once calmly, if you can afford dates, mani-pedis, and shopping sprees, you can afford a babysitter. Claire's response? She blocked me. Just like that, my mom called that same night. You need to fix this, she said. You broke the family. I told her I wasn't abandoning Zoe, I was setting boundaries. I loved that little girl, but I wasn't her third parent. Claire needed to step up. Mom wasn't hearing it. Be the bigger person, she begged. Apologize. Offer to babysit. That was when it hit me. Mom was never going to be on my side. No matter what Claire did, no matter how many times she crossed the line, Mom would defend her. So I said the thing I never thought I'd say. I'm done. With both of you. At least for now. And then I muted the group chat. The silence? It felt like breathing for the first time in years. The peace didn't last long. About a week after I dropped that boundary bomb and went no contact, I started settling into what felt like a new chapter. No texts demanding I babysit just for a few hours. No calls guilt-tripping me for not being a real sister. For the first time in forever, I wasn't on edge. I had time to myself. I could actually make weekend plans without wondering, if Zoe was going to show up unannounced with a stuffed unicorn and a juice box. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. I answered, and that's when things got weird. Hi, this is Mark. I'm Claire's manager at Lake House Grill. I blinked. I'd only met the guy once, when I dropped Zoe off there after one of Claire's shifts. Why was he calling me? He sounded unsure, almost embarrassed. I wouldn't normally call, but you're listed as Zoe's emergency contact. Claire didn't show up to work today. No call, no message. We tried reaching her, but nothing. I just stood there, staring at the wall. She put me as Zoe's emergency contact without telling me? She said I was the irresponsible one. I muttered under my breath. I told Mark one hadn't heard from her in over a week, and that I wasn't watching Zoe anymore. He sounded awkward and hung up pretty quickly after that. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. Not even an hour later, my mom called. I could hear it before I picked up the panic. Ava, do you know where Claire is? No, I said flatly. She quit her job, packed her stuff, moved in with some guy she met online. Didn't tell anyone. Just left. She dropped Zoe off at my place and disappeared. My stomach sank. Claire had actually done it. She just walked out, left her kid and vanished into some guy's apartment like it was nothing. And now, my mom was overwhelmed. She didn't know how to handle a kindergartner. She didn't have the clothes, the toys, the routine, and I could already hear it in her voice. She expected me to step in. Again. But this time, I didn't even hesitate. No, I said. There was a pause, and then she launched into full guilt trip mode. Ava, she's 6. She's innocent in all of this. She needs stability. You know her bedtime routine. She trusts you. She's not my kid, I said quietly. Mom didn't like that. She's family. I was family too, I snapped. Until I said I wanted respect, and you both treated me like trash. She started crying, begging, accusing me of abandoning Zoe just like Claire had. She said I was being cruel, cold, unforgiving. But the thing is, I had forgiven them. Over and over again. I forgave Claire every time she dumped her daughter on me with no warning. I forgave Mom every time she chose Claire's convenience over my boundaries. I was done forgiving people who saw my love as something to exploit. I'm not punishing Zoe, I said, but I'm not sacrificing myself for Claire's mess anymore. You figure it out. And then for the second time in a week, I hung up on my mother. I turned off my phone. I sat in silence. And for once, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Over the next few days, I started hearing things through the grapevine. Mom had no idea what she was doing with Zoe. She called around to neighbors, friends, even old coworkers of Claire's, trying to find help. Nobody had the time. Nobody knew what was going on. Claire hadn't contacted anyone. It was like she vanished, and I kept waiting for that inevitable knock on my door, for the phone call with tears and a desperate, "Can you just take her for the weekend?" But it didn't come. Not right away. 2 weeks passed. Then, one evening, just as I was finishing dinner, someone knocked. It was Claire, standing at my door, holding a frappuccino like she'd just come back from a casual Target run. Hair curled, nails fresh, brand new jacket, like she hadn't ghosted the world for half a month, like she hadn't left her daughter with no explanation. I opened the door but didn't move aside. She gave me that tired smile she always used when she wanted something. I just needed a break, she said casually. A break. From her kid. From responsibility. From reality. I stared at her. You blocked me, vanished, and dumped Zoe on Mom. And all you've got is, I needed a break, she shrugged. You don't get it, Ava. Being a single mom is hard. You've never had to do it. You're right, I said. Because I didn't choose it, you did. She started with the excuses again. How she was exhausted. How nobody supported her. How I made things harder. How Mom couldn't handle Zoe alone. How is that my fault? I asked. You're her aunt, she snapped. You should want help. No, I said. You should be a mother. That was the moment something shifted. Her face hardened. She realized I wasn't going to budge. That the old Ava, the one who bent over backward, who canceled plans, who swallowed resentment just to keep the peace, was gone. "Fine," she hissed. "You're cold. I hope you're happy." And she turned, walked down my porch steps, and drove off. No apology, no thank you. Just a hissed insult and a frappuccino. And that was that. It's been almost 3 months since that day. Claire hasn't asked me to babysit once. Turns out, when you stop letting people treat you like a doormat, they find other shoes to wipe their feet on. Last I heard from Mom through one of her passive-aggressive texts, Claire's new boyfriend kicked her out. She moved back in with Mom, got her job back, found someone else to watch Zoe. Mom still thinks I'm the bad guy, still says I turned my back on family, but she never once asked Claire why she thought abandoning her child for a Tinder date was okay. As for me, I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. Weeks turned into months. By then, the dust had settled. No more calls from unknown numbers. No desperate knocks on my door. No late-night texts begging me to just take Zoe for a bit. Claire had figured something out, or at least found someone else to shoulder the load. I didn't ask questions. I didn't care to know. It was strange at first. The silence. After years of constant demands and emotional whiplash, it felt like walking out of a storm and realizing the sun was still there, soft, steady, waiting. But even peace takes getting used to. Every now and then I'd catch myself checking my phone, half expecting a passive-aggressive guilt trip from Mom or another empty promise from Claire. I'd stare at my messages, thumb hovering, then put the phone down. No response was my new answer, and that silence, it became sacred. I won't pretend I didn't think about Zoe. That little girl had nothing to do with the chaos around her. She didn't ask to be born into a mess, didn't choose a mother who ran from responsibility or a grandmother who enabled it. I thought about her laugh, the way she used to curl up next to me on the couch with her worn-out bunny plushie, the nights I'd stay up helping her with puzzles or reading her stories. I missed her, not the role I was forced into, not the unpaid caregiver job. I missed her, but missing her didn't mean sacrificing myself anymore. Claire had vanished once. What stopped her from doing it again? What happens the next time she meets some guy on a dating app and decides she needs another break? What if Mom drops the ball again? Where does that leave me? Right back in the same place, exhausted, unappreciated, holding someone else's world together while mine crumbles in the background. I couldn't go back, and I wouldn't. 3 months after Claire's dramatic reappearance, Mom called. Again. This time, I answered. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. Her voice was tired, like she was finally starting to see what I'd seen for years. "She's back home," she said. "Working again. Things are fine, I guess." I waited. There was always a but with my mother. "But Zoe misses you. She keeps asking about you." "Of course she does." And that gutted me. I stayed quiet. "She doesn't understand why you're not around anymore." Still, I said nothing. "She needs you." That was it. Not Claire, not Mom. Zoe needed me. It was the one thing that could still crack through the armor I'd spent months building. But I didn't let it break me. "I love her," I said, "but I'm not coming back to the way things were." I could hear my mom shift on the other end. I think part of her finally understood. Maybe not all of it, but enough to know I wasn't bluffing. "She could use a visit," she said, "just to see your face." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "I'll think about it," I said. And that was the most honest thing I could offer. 2 weeks later, I did visit. Just for an hour. I brought a coloring book, some snacks, and her favorite juice box. When she saw me, Zoe ran straight into my arms like nothing had changed. Like I hadn't disappeared for months. Like her mother hadn't tried to pretend I didn't exist. Kids are like that. Pure, forgiving, and sometimes painfully unaware of the mess around them. We colored for a bit. Talked about her new school. She told me about her new babysitter, some college girl who brings stickers and lets her stay up too late. I didn't ask about Claire. When I stood up to leave, Zoe frowned. You're not staying? I crouched down, held her tiny hands in mine. I can't stay forever, sweetheart, but I'll see you again. And that was true. I would see her again, on my terms, when I decided, not because someone needed a last-minute sitter, not because her mom ran off again, not because I was guilted into it, just because I wanted to. She hugged me tight and I hugged her tighter. Then I left. And I didn't look back. Now, it's been over 6 months since I first set that boundary, and I can finally breathe. I've started going to therapy. I've been picking up extra shifts and saving for a solo trip, maybe Colorado or Arizona. Somewhere quiet, somewhere warm, somewhere that feels like mine. My boyfriend Nate, still around, still supportive, still reminding me, gently, that I deserve a life outside of everyone else's chaos. Claire never apologized, never even tried, but she also hasn't asked me to babysit once, which, honestly, says it all. When I stopped being the safety net, she was forced to figure it out. And Mom, she still sends the occasional guilt-laced message. Zoe asked for you again? Claire's doing better now. It wouldn't hurt to come around more. I respond when I feel like it. Sometimes I don't, because I'm not their bandage anymore, not their free childcare, not their emotional sponge. I'm just Ava, and I'm finally okay with that. So, if you're out there reading this, maybe in the same spot I was, let me tell you something. I wish someone had told me sooner. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to stop setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. You are allowed to walk away from people who only love you when you're useful. And the ones who really matter? They'll still be there when you stop being convenient. Because here's the truth. When you stop letting people use you, they either learn how to respect you or they find someone else to use. Either way, you're free.